today we're going to have a tour of one of Leek's iconic buildings, which is the Nicholson Institute, which holds the library in Leek. Lots of interesting features here, and as you can see we've got the wrought iron gates, which are very widely spaced to the entrance to the building, and that's because this building was not just a library. Upstairs in the art gallery they had all kinds of soirees and events, and people would come in carriages to these events, so that the gates had to be wide enough for the carriages to come through. It's a very impressive entrance, but if you don't actually know the Nicholson Institute and you come into the town and you just walk past here, you won't see the full aspect of the building, so that's what we're going to show you today. We've now come through the entrance to the Nicholson Institute and you can see the entrance to the building itself, and if you can notice there is a date on there which says 1882 to 1884. Well, that's because it started to be built in 1882, but it didn't open until 1884. And the man who had this built was a man called Joshua Nicholson. Now, Joshua Nicholson was a Yorkshireman, and he came to Leek when he was 1824, when he was a traveller for the firm which was then J London. He became the director of that company, which was then by then Nicholson and Hall, and it was one of the largest silk manufacturers in Leek, and he employed many people at his factory there. But as a young man, he was very aware that he had no access to art and literature, and he was an educationalist. He wanted to provide education for the people of Leek, particularly the young people, and he wanted them to have access to art and literature, and that's why the Nicholson Institute was built. So here we are at the bottom of the steps leading to the Nicholson Institute, and as I said before, unless you actually come into this building, you won't see this marvellous facade of the rest of the building. This building was built by the firm of William Sugden and Son, who were very famous Leek architects and really did a lot of arts and crafts style building. This was designed by Lorna Sugden, who was William Sugden's son, and he did a lot of arts and crafts architecture, but this is supposedly in the Queen Anne style, which is a bit of a mishmash of all sorts of different styles of architecture. So you've got this wonderful tower with the dome at the top, which Leek people have always remembered as green because it had verdigris on it, but now it's gone brown, and hopefully it's going to go green again. But you can see the sculpture work here above this window, where there's the 4 portrait medallions stonework done by Stephen Webb, who was an arts and crafts designer, and they represent centuries in different subjects. So you've got Shakespeare for the 16th century, and then you've got Newton representing science for the 17th, Reynolds representing art for the 18th, and Tennyson representing poetry, I suppose. And actually in the archive here there is a letter written by Tennyson saying how grateful he was that his name was mentioned here. You've also got this wonderful oriel window over to the left there, which was at one time the library committee room. And things change over the years. Then it was the children's library, and now it's part of the adult library. But you can see it's got a Dutch gable on it. It's got, above those windows, a stone balustrade, which was typical of the stonework that the Sugdens did in the town. Lots of interesting features. Above the oriel window there is a balcony which used to lead into the art gallery, but which is now being used as a storeroom, and that's where the pictures were brought out to be cleaned. Joshua Nicholson himself, who lived a little bit further up the road, had a private entrance to the left there, so that he could come into the library and didn't have to mix with anyone. So here we are in the current children's library. As you can see, it's a very light and spacious room, as are all the rooms in this building. But when this building opened, this was the newsroom. So it had lots of long tables and chairs, and it had racks of newspapers and magazines, far more than we have in libraries today. And it was open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. So you had a lot of time to come and do your reading. And I think people might have bought books in here to have a look and sit at the table as well. We've come down to the basement of the library here, And this room that we're standing in now, which is now the staff room, used to be the children's library. And people living in Leek who are of a certain age can remember it being the children's library. And when they come on these tours, they always remember it as being a much bigger room, which of course it was, because now you've got the lift equipment in here, which takes up a lot of room. But interestingly, in this room, you can see that there's another gas bracket above the table there, and the table there, which the microfiche reader is on, was one of the original library tables. And those tables would be in the newsroom, which we've just been looking at, and in the original reading room, which is where the adult stock's kept, because the actual library was in the inner sanctum. We'll have a look at that later. This is one of the parts of the building that the public don't generally see, but it's always fascinating to people when I do these library tours, because it's an old part of the building, and it's got stonework and bricks, stone steps which actually lead up to the back of the library, and I can remember going down there years ago, and another one that now leads to a fire escape. But there's very ornate stonework there, and we wish we knew what it was originally. The Nicholson Institute is a very unusual building in that it serves the same purpose as it did when it was built in 1884. It had a library which was run by the Nicholson family for some years, and it had an art gallery, which it still has. It had a museum, which it still has, and it was also equipped with 2 rooms for a school of art. And we're still down in the basement. We've just come around the corridor, and behind this blue baize screen here is the entrance to those 2 art rooms, and they were used with the School of Art for very many years. So now we've come up to what was the original library itself. This is now where the staff workroom. To my left there was the newsroom, which we were in a minute or 2 ago, and to my right is the adult lending, which was the reading room, where you took your book, put it on a table and sat reading it, or you were allowed to take 1 book home for a fortnight at that time. So this is the library, and original library. You can see all these shelves, and can you see how narrow the shelves are, these wooden shelves, and it's very difficult if you're working in this library to get a book on it. They're forever falling down. Lovely art work and ironwork from that period. It's wonderful, it's beautiful in here. People are so amazed by it. Lovely floors, all ironwork, lovely railings, beautiful ironwork going right up to the top. Now, when this library opened, you didn't choose your book off the shelves because they were all in here. So you had to go to a hatch, which you'll see later, and you had to ask for what you wanted. Now, there's 6,000 books bought when this library was opened, and they were all chosen by Joshua Oldfield Nicholson, who was Joshua's son. Lots of them were non-fiction, but I expect we're very grateful to be able to get hold of a book at all at that time. So this original library was a little bit higher up than both the newsroom and the reading room, and of course so the librarians who worked in here could keep their eye on the people in the other rooms. So here we are at the bottom of the winding iron staircase, which leads up to the next floor, which was part of the library too, and then a floor above it onto the top floor where the museum and the art gallery and the local history archive are. And let me tell you, if you work in here and somebody summons you from the top, it's quite a task to go up and down these circular stairs, but it must be keeping you fit. So we've come up to the top of those winding spiral staircases, and we're now in the area which now houses the vast local history archive and Leek Library, and it really is a treasure trove of anybody who's wanting to do research. But if you look down below to the just the floor below, that was also part of the library, and that also stored the books. And so you've got these very narrow shelves again, and they're also stacked with local history books. And it's wonderful to look down here, and because you wouldn't come in here because only the library staff come in here, so it's nice to be able to see. We've got this lovely ironwork and wooden shelving and decorative features all over the place. It wasn't just built to be plain. It's a statement of, I suppose it's a statement of wealth and a statement of what somebody could do when they put their mind to it. This room is actually situated between two of the smaller art galleries, and the big art gallery is just in front of us. It was the north and south cabinet art galleries. The one that we're looking at here is just through those doors, which you used to be able to go through at one time, and you can see the decorative features on that woodwork and on the plasterwork above. So that is where the tourist information is now, and the other end is where the local history archive is, where people can come and ask for books and they can have them taken to them. So one of the most fantastic features of this library is this wonderful glass dome that you can see here. And again, you will not see it if you're just a member of the public, unless you come on one of the tours. But it's got different coloured glass in it, it's got wonderful carved woodwork, and of course the purpose it serves is to let light into the building. So we've got beautiful big windows in the library and the reading room. We've got this light that you can move up and down here to light the top floor of the library building, and you've got this fantastic dome. People are always absolutely amazed when they see it.